All right. So I'm with Patrick Sullivan, who is the co-founder of 2600 Hertz, and they have been in this game for a decade or longer, come up with some pretty amazing stuff, especially as it relates to UCaaS and CPaaS. And that combination has been a very powerful combination for you guys. But I am so excited to talk with you today because a whole bunch of applications have come into focus to create a solution that is allowing people to work from home seamlessly, as if they were in an office. And it seems like a lot of these applications came into being just recently, but you've been working on these things for a year or more. And they sort of all converged just at this time, like you knew what you were doing, because the COVID virus has changed everything about the workplace. And it sent people home fearful that they weren't going to be productive. At least the managers were fearful of that. And now you sent them home with their phones that were on their desk. They took them home, plugged them in, and it worked as if they were sitting in that cube in that beautiful office that they used to be going to. So Patrick, what do you think? It's just so exciting that you guys were made for this moment.
Dave, first of all, thanks for pointing out that we've been around for over 10 years now. I used to always think about us as the young little, go-getters in the telecom world. And now after 10 years, I guess we're not the young go-getters anymore. We're just the go-getters. So thanks for mentioning that. It's interesting. So, our focus for the last 10 years has really been around building a distributed platform for scale. And you can, put it anywhere you want. And our vision is always giving you kind of like the building blocks to, kind of mix and match what you wanted and to go to market however you decide to. And probably, in the last couple of months, when COVID really started to hit and people were like, hey, we have to work remotely, we can't go in the offices anymore, gave us a new focus. And we started to prioritize, how do we make sure that all our resellers, all our service providers, all our partners can really focus on remote collaboration. And what that means is, how do we enable the end user so they can work remotely, they can work at their houses, they can work anywhere they want to? We always had the technology underneath the hood, but we had the technology in a way where you had to kind of pick and choose the different building blocks. And so now, because we kind of prioritize this, we're launching a series of apps and applications over the next, 3 months that you're going to see a ton of new features and functionality. And some of the early things you're going to see right away is we're giving you the ability to have a desk phone on your computer via what we call a web phone. But the whole idea, it gives you all your information, transcribes all your phone calls, does everything you ever need on your desk phone. But now it's on your computer, it's easy to download, and it's easy to operate. And then once we have that, we're actually opening up the whole video collaboration because, as we've learned with Zoom, people don't want just, having their phone calls. They want to be able to actually see each other, because there's a lot more of like, you can see the nuances when someone's talking to you versus, just hearing them on a phone call. Sharing collaborations and screen sharing, all those things are extremely important right now when you can't see each other face to face. So it's funny. We were talking to, a couple partners and stuff, and, we're telling them about all the different products we're launching. And they're, they kind of stopped us. They're like, look, you guys, you're not launching a bunch of products. You're launching a whole idea around remote collaboration and, enabling our remote workforces. And that's kind of true. And for us, it's how do we stay 100% focused on making sure that we enable the end users so that they're not stuck at home and they're not productive and, they're not isolated. And so it's been pretty interesting to watch our team, with 100% focus. And the silver lining about being stuck at home is that there's really not much else to do but code. And so we code day and night now, and we are launching a lot of things very, very quickly to enable our partners to allow their end users to be as productive as possible.
It's interesting that you're just saying that there's nothing to do but code. You've got people more focused now using these tools that you've invented and pulled together and bolted together in a way that's very synergistic. And so now you're reaching new highs of productivity. So that's wild. That's just a really good use case that we could talk more and more about. But I think let's kind of unpack a couple of the applications that I'm most excited about as I began to watch the partner call that you guys just have with all of your partners. Some of these things were just like groundbreaking. So I just love this new one that's called callthrough.us.
Yep.
Callthrough.us. So maybe you can help me understand how people can use that.
Absolutely. We have always done a couple of partnerships with like Sprint and T-Mobile to allow our, resellers and partners to kind of resell Sprint or T-Mobile type services on our system, all via white label, so they can become MVNOs. What we never really focused on was how do we turn on, an application where it can give you all your business functionality. And so one of the things that we're launching is a full app for Android and iOS. So you have all your business applications on your cell phone. And then when you make calls, it's going through your business switch. And we've done some pretty hardcore magic in the background. So it's going over the voice part of the network and not the data part of the network. As you know, whenever you use like a lot of the third-party apps to make phone calls, when you're on the data part of the network, you might run into areas where you just have no data service, but you still have the voice service, and then the calls drop. Our 100% focus was, at the end of the day, no matter what you're using, if the calls ever drop, that's not good. And people can't, really use that reliably. So because of that, our focus has always been, hey, how do we make sure you have your features and functionality to ensure that the call quality is going over the voice part of the network? And this is one of our really robust apps that we are launching right now, is to allow anybody to download these white labeled apps they can put on their cell phones and get all their business phones functionality onto that app.
The cool thing is, like being a part of a BroadSoft switch for a long time, we had this thing called simultaneous ring. And when that came out, it gave me a tremendous amount of power and usability, because when my desk phone was ringing, it was simultaneously ringing my cell phone. So I would never miss a call.
Yep.
And I loved that. I didn't have to go press a forward and then, then it switches over, but doesn't ring both, just switches over. And a lot of times I would leave the office and go, oh crap, I forgot to push forward. And now all those are going to end up in my voicemail for tomorrow, that kind of thing. So that never has to happen again. That cell phone is tied directly to the phone that you have on your desk. So the phone in your pocket is now as powerful as the phone on your desk. And you guys just put those together.
Well, one of the great things too is I don't have an iOS. So I'm old school Android. And when someone leaves me a voicemail, I actually have to listen to that voicemail. One of the small, subtle applications that we added into the whole system is the ability to transcribe all your voicemails. And so now it's like, not only if for some reason, all your devices can be ringed, or you put them in ring groups, or you can use time of day routing. So, hey, I want my cell phone business calls only coming from, 9 to 5 or 9 to 6. But after 6 o'clock, I don't want any of my business phone calls coming to my cell phone. But if they do, now it's, one of the little features to me is so powerful is being able to transcribe all your emails or all your voicemails, and it transcribes it to an email, gives you the attachment, and then you can send it to the right appropriate person if you're not the right person receiving that phone call. So it's a lot of the little subtle things that's in the apps that, I think is going to make a big difference on productivity for not just our employees, but like our customers and their employees.
Okay, so let's talk about another one of those things that make us so much more productive. And it's what we're doing right now, video.
Yep.
So video conferencing is now a part of the 2600 suite of services.
Absolutely. Well, video is a funny one. So we have been actually working on this for a couple of years now, but our customers have never really been asking too highly of it. Their point of view was, yeah, that'd be great to have, but no one really uses video. So our internal team, a lot of our engineers are remote, because when you find a really strong distributed telecom engineer, you don't care where they live. You're going to hire them. So they have been sitting on a video conference bridge for the last 3 or 4 years. So it's rock solid. The downside of our video conferencing in the past was there was never really a good interface. It was done from a technology standpoint, but not a user experience standpoint. And so in the last 3 weeks, we've really been focusing on the user experience And we pushed this into our desktop app that we're launching so that anybody who's using the system can now use the video conferencing capabilities. And again, this goes back to this whole idea that people are working remotely now and people are stuck inside their houses, and they can't get to the office anymore, but they still need to collaborate. And you don't want to have to turn on 10 different services to collaborate. You just want your one service. Hey, here's my phone system. Here's my video conferencing, here's all my collaboration tools, and they're all under the same roof. So you can just kind of use and pick and choose which ones you want.
Yeah, so the other thing that you've done is put together all these very powerful collaboration tools along with the work from home technology that approximates everything that's in your office. And you created this thing called COMM.io.
Yep.
So let's talk about how you bolted those together to create one suite that changes the world for the remote worker.
This is one of the complaints, and we've heard our customers say this before, is that they didn't want to have to log into a web portal and then, start receiving their phone calls that way. They want something on their desktop that will just pop up whenever a phone call comes in and they can silence it. And we took it one step further. We decided, hey, not only that, we want to have more of that traditional kind of like Slack experience where you have a really strong, powerful tool that gives you all the information at your fingertips that's just always sitting there on standby waiting for you to either receive a phone call or make a phone call. And so not only does it give you all the functionality of your business phone system, but it's kind of like the next generation where it's all, using WebRTC based logic to route the calls behind the scenes. But it gives you all the functionality of seeing all your voicemails, seeing all your faxes. I know a lot of people don't use faxes, but you'll still see all your faxes in your fax box. And you have the ability to make a call anytime you want. And that's V1. V2 is we're going to start integrating this with all the different chat clients out there. So if eventually you can press the button on any chat, and if you type in someone's number into, Microsoft Teams or Slack or whatever, you click on that button and it'll all of a sudden pop up the web phone and just make that call. So it just makes it that much easier to collaborate, which whatever system you're currently using, this kind of adds on to that too. So that's kind of goes with this whole vision of not just how do you make sure people are receiving phone calls and how are people sharing files and sharing videos, but more importantly, how do we make sure that no matter what their current work experience is, kind of make it even better. So that's kind of the overall goal.
It feels like you guys were responsive to this whole change in the workplace, but I want to tell you, I think you were visionary. I think you guys saw it coming and began to go into high gear about 6 months ago, because I kind of watched that happen. And they were a bunch of fun little projects, but you call them Legos, and you took those Legos and created an overall solution to a real problem that is on us now.
Obviously my hat's off to the team. They did all the heavy lifting and the hard work. And, honestly, we were just kind of put in the right place at the right time because, again, as I said earlier, our team has always been a distributed working team. We have our headquarters is in San Francisco, but that's probably 35% of our staff. The remaining part is they're distributed around the world. And so we always had to have the tools in place to not only make sure that people were enabled to work, but they could be doing their work as efficiently as possible. And it just, once COVID happened, we kind of realized that, hey, look, this is not just for a subset of companies anymore. This is for every company. All the companies now have to make sure that their employees have everything at their fingertips to work and to make sure that they're productive. And I think we're going to see something really interesting is, once the pandemic kind of slows down and, people start going back to the office, I think we're going to start seeing a lot of CFOs out there really trying to decide, hey, should we be keeping these really expensive offices open? Is this the wave of the future? Or, hey, do we realize that like a lot of people shouldn't have to deal with commuting to work and all the rigors of sitting in traffic trying to get to an office if they can be just as efficient working remotely? And so from our point of view, it put a fire under us because our partners were asking for this. But I also think this is kind of like the wave of the future is that we're going to see some big changes in the way people work going forward.
I think that's true. I think we already have. And I think that genie is out of the bottle and it's not going back in that bottle. Yeah. I think that people like working from home, generally speaking. And so why wouldn't you want to just be in a comfortable spot, dressed like you are today?
Yep.
And you don't always have to be videoed or visual. You can also just turn it off and say, I'm having a bad hair day, that
That
kind
is
of thing.
true.
And
That is true.
and sometimes we get a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for? Fatigued. There is a term now called Zoom fatigue, because people are always having to look people in the eyes like we are right now. And
Yep.
they're always having to be visual. And sometimes it's nice to just have a conversation without having somebody staring back at you. And on other occasions, though, it's really good because
Yep.
if you have that person's attention, what's happening in their background. And it's kind of a cool thing. This one guy I was talking to, his 3-year-old daughter, I think she's 3, crawled up in his lap while we were talking, and he said, "This is Isabella. I want you to meet her, and say hi, Isabella." And so we did a little of that, and instead of shooing her away, he just brought her right into the conversation. And how cool is that?
Oh,
So
absolutely.
that's the kind of stuff that happens, that real life happens because we have visual communication. And it is true that we connect at another whole level, because communications is about 90% visual, and that's just all part of face-to-face.
Where I see this is going is kind of what you mentioned, is that sometimes you want the visual, sometimes you need the audio, and no one's going to call into a conference center or a call center and say, "Hey, look, let me talk to you, Dave," or Zoom. No, Zoom is for people who already know each other, or people who have been introduced and they're willing to have that conversation. You're always going to need the audio for just the generic, hey, I need to call into a place to, talk to someone randomly. And there's going to be times that, just like myself, sometimes I don't want to be seeing people, and I'm like, I like to have a good audio, or if I'm on the move and I'm walking around the city, I don't want to turn on my Zoom. I want to make sure I have the ability to make a phone call, but still have everything at my fingertips to, collaborate however I want. You're going to see some crazy technologies coming out, and that's not just from us, that's from a lot of different cool companies out there that are really pushing the envelope. If nothing else, I'm excited because it's going to, put a real kick to the butt, especially in telecommunications. And you can see companies that are excelling, and then you're going to see companies that are just, they never thought that they had to put more money into R&D, and they're going to quickly realize, like, oh, wow, like we are far behind the ball on this one now. So, we're going to have to wake up soon and not just rest on our laurels anymore. So, for me, this is a really interesting time in the telecom world, and I'm excited to see where it goes. And obviously my hat's off to all the healthcare providers and everybody who's, on the front line fighting this. But, there are some silver linings around it, which is it's really making people rethink the way they're working and, the way technology should be going and stuff.
There are still 200 million plus landline phones that businesses are using and have been loath to give it up. And now they're being forced to give it up. And we're starting to see everything change.
Absolutely. Well, and I heard even today I was on a call and they mentioned how, in the US, we're a little bit farther ahead on the cloud transition. But if you go to Europe right now, it's almost like still an open field where majority of the companies in Europe, are still on the traditional, box in their closet where they're not expecting to move to the cloud. And now they're kind of, having a opening where they're like, shoot, our on-prem PBX doesn't work anymore. We need to move to the cloud. It's not like, should we move to the cloud? It's now we must move to the cloud. So there's going to be some really interesting opportunities for all sorts of cloud providers coming up.
It's a whole new world. I mean, we watched that happen when Ring Central, a born in the cloud telecommunications company, bought a good chunk of Avaya and is now working like crazy to get those phones over into the cloud. As one of those guys that stepped into this whole cloud communications world in 2002, that was a long time ago. And
you talk about visionaries. You were there before everybody else was, so that's that's the true visionary right there.
It was crazy. It was a voice over the internet. Are you kidding me? And remember the days we were trying to put it over DSL because a T1 cost $1,200.
Oh yeah.
And
Talking
now
about
we're
trying to
putting
keep
out,
uptime when you have a DSL line that, you have flaps in
yeah,
your DSL and you're like, well, I don't think it's my software. I think it's your internet connection. They're like, well,
yeah,
I have 1 gig up
yeah,
and 1 gig down, or not 1 meg up, 1 meg down,
yeah,
can't be my
that's
internet.
right.
So
That's right. It was a whole nother world. And today we're talking, yeah, in gigs that are being delivered to a residential home. I mean, it's just unbelievable the changes that have happened over the last 2 decades. But
oh,
we're here
absolutely.
now, and cloud communications is all that we dreamed it would be. And so, I'm excited about where this goes and how much more productive our society gets as a result of it. And for all those innovators out there like you and 2600's people, you're cutting edge. You're developing things that I'm sure are kind of in the garage right now that
Yep.
are going to be the next big thing. And so I'm excited to watch it, Patrick. I think
Yeah.
everything
No, I
you're
mean, Dave, I
doing
will be
is
honest with you.
exciting.
One of my favorite things to do is join 9-hour product meetings. Like, I love my product team. I like those meetings, but we have a small team called the Skunk Works team. They're working on some things that 4 to 5 years down the road. And some of the stuff that they're working on, when I come into those meetings, I'm like, wow, you guys are really the visionary where the technology is going. And this is exciting. And I can't wait to see, how we eventually implement this. And to me, that's the exciting part, and right now it's like you mentioned a lot of this technology is to improve productivity. I think it's, I would say not just improve productivity, it's to enable flexibility. And the flexibility is going to be, hey, if you want to choose to work from your office, great. But if you want to move to France and work from France, fantastic. And I think in the past, it's like you had to live where your office was and you're stuck there for 20, 30 years and stuff. Now people can move their families around, and kind of brings more like inclusion in the world where, you 100% can move to any country you want to now. Well, maybe not any country, but a lot of the countries out there. And you can live there and get a different side of culture that you could never do if you're stuck in the same, hometown that you've been there for 30 years and stuff. And I think that's the flexibility that, really is not just going to drive innovation, but it's also going to drive like, how people, interact with each other. And I that's the side that I'm super excited about.
And your team is a perfect living example of how that can really go, given the right tools.
Absolutely.
So, and if you don't have the right tools, you invent them. So it's been fun to watch, Patrick. Keep it going.
Well,
And
Dave, I really appreciate it. And again, thanks for kind of starting this whole revolution back in 2002. We're just trying to pick up where you and a bunch of those guys back then started. So, we're just taking it where you guys left off.
hey, we're just doing this together. Yeah, really
Absolutely.
fun. Well, thanks for joining us today, and looking forward to getting this on the UC Buyer so that those people who are looking into UC and trying to buy it now know how to bolt it together. So
Perfect.
tell them for a moment, how do they get to know the 2600 technology? How do they get to know you?
That's a great question. So you can go to our website. That's 2600hz.com. And one of the things that we are actually starting to do is we realize that, a lot of people don't put their interfaces up on the web. For some reason, they keep it secret. We're proud of our interfaces. So we're starting to make a bunch of videos on YouTube. So you can go to our 2600 Hertz YouTube channel if you want to see what a lot of the applications are, or just join our community. And that's community.2600hertz.com. The core of our platform is open source. So even if you don't want to talk to us, you can download it and start playing around with it, from day one. And then if you like it, come talk to us. Or if you want to run with it yourselves, you guys can do that too.
Yeah. Any other ways that people can connect with you or your team members?
Yeah, you can also shoot us an email. Send it to contact@2600hertz.com.
And you guys have a great blog section of your website. You have a great podcasting schedule that your marketing team has been putting together for a couple of years now, I think it is.
We have a pretty strong community worldwide. So even if you don't want to talk to us, talk to our community. They'd love to have the conversation and talk about, how they're using the different applications in many different ways. And, they'd love to share their experiences.
That's how we all get better. That's
Absolutely.
worldwide collaboration with some of the smartest people in the world.
Well,
Good
Dave,
to
I
be with
really
you.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
This
you.
is fantastic. Thank you for having me. And, if there's any questions, let me know. Otherwise, Dave, I'm excited to see, where this goes.
Yeah, me too. All right. Well, have a good evening.
You too.